But what I lost in my ability to walk, I gained so much more in perspective.
How you handle the challenges that come your way. What would you say is like one of the biggest problems that your community faces? Welcome, welcome. So I'm excited to have Anthony here with us today on the Unstoppablepreneur show. And yeah, from just connecting with you right before the show, sounds like you have a very big passion, and it comes from disabilities, which you have had your whole life, I assume. Or like, yeah, I'd love to hear your story of like, tell us your story, your mission, and what you want to get out to the world.
Well, first of all, Tyler, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I was born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus, and it looked at differently at different points in my life. I'm now 44, but up until the age of 12, I was walking, mind you, with the use of a cane, crutches, and so on and so forth. When at age 12, I had a surgery that at the time in 92 had a success rate of 40%. And following the surgery, that left me using a wheelchair there and after. So not only did I have to relearn certain things, I had to, just, I don't want to say cope, but, understand a different life. But what I lost in my ability to walk, I gained so much more in perspective. The opportunity that my Hamilton community has given me has been something I could never have dreamed of.
Wow. I'm curious, like during that time when you went through those surgeries, what was your mindset like, knowing that you had to get them and like what will happen? Was there fear, anxiety? Was there just complete faith or trust? Like, how did you go at that?
I mean, going into the surgery, I knew that there was that success rate of 40%. I had a good, strong family background, support, friends, so on and so forth. That regardless of what was going to happen following the surgery, we were going to make it work the best we could. And not only did we make it work, we're now thriving in what we do in the community.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about what you are thriving in, like the message and the awareness that you're bringing to people.
So, Above and Beyond is the brand that I created in 2016, following my mother's untimely passing from cancer. I'm now an author, an actor, speaker, television host myself, and I get the message about accessibility and inclusion at the forefront of the conversation rather than seeking validation at the end. Oftentimes, accessibility is done to meet a minimum standard, to meet compliance, when it doesn't meet the needs of people with disabilities. So quite often we're doing it wrong. We're trying to alleviate the attitudinal barriers and the perceptions of disability versus what the realities of disabilities are. And we have that abundance of talent here in Hamilton, Ontario, where I'm from. 27% identify as members of the disability community in some way, shape, or form. So whether it's visible or invisible. So having that talent pool tapped to get solutions done right is really the avenue of which, not only here in Hamilton, is the way to go.
And what would you say, like, with the disability world, what would you say is the biggest problem that you see with people also who have disabilities, but also people who don't, and maybe the judgments or the things that they have or the perceptions? I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that of both
Absolutely.
sides.
Absolutely. I mean, there's over 1.1 billion people worldwide that identify as members of the disability community. And that's also an $11 trillion market. That a lot of it is untapped, overlooked, and overshadowed. There's a lot of assumptions, perceptions. There's a lot of thoughts that go behind disability as a negative. There's a perception that people with disabilities need to be fixed. Well, no, that's not the case at all. We need to be accepted. We need to be in a community where our communities are accessible for us, not because um, we need to be grateful, but it's simply the right thing to do. When people with disabilities are employed, when people with disabilities are able to get around in community, able to access certain avenues, goods and services with dignity and respect, the community and the economy at large will thrive.
And what would you say is like one of the biggest problems that your community faces?
Well, a lot of communities at large within the disability community face um, the pushback, the ableism, the elitism. the perception that you can't do something because you have a disability in some fashion. But the disability world knows that it's a way to do certain things may look unorthodox to those without disabilities, but it's our way of doing things. It's our normal. And we have to be able to trust in the process of how we accomplish our tasks. We always say we put our pants on one leg at a time. Well, for someone like myself, it's something that, I do sitting down. So I don't go one leg at a time, I put both in at the same time, and then, I get myself ready that way. So, I mean, thinking outside the box, thinking in a way that allows more creativity, more ingenuity, so to speak.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing on that. As you're saying that, my mind's thinking about also as an entrepreneur, we have people who have challenges that come up in their family, that come up just in anything. And I'm interested to see your perspective on how you handle the challenges that come your way. And like, what suggestions would you have for other entrepreneurs? And maybe they might be disabled or not, but like the mindset that you go at it with, like day to day, I know that makes a huge difference. And whether someone becomes a victim or a victor based on their situation or circumstance. Yeah, could you teach a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Within the entrepreneurial avenues that a lot of us are, if we plan our entrepreneurial ventures with accessibility in mind, that we're reaching a greater target market. We're giving people with disabilities the opportunity to be shoppers, to be part of the community, whether it's online or in person, whether you have an online store or a bricks and mortar store. If you build with accessibility at the forefront, you're it's an investment, rather than a cost, because the return on investment in and of itself will come back in spades. Now, if you look at it from the perspective of just, it's simply just the right thing to do too. People with disabilities are people too, and we do things like everybody else, and we just need the avenues and the spaces, tangible and intangible, to accomplish our tasks, with dignity and respect. I talked about earlier about the fact that when we talk about, doing things a little bit unorthodox, let us, get out there and educate people on what the disability world is like so that it becomes normalized.
I think that's huge because I think often people, they just don't have the education. They've never had the perspective of it, and their judgments are based on ignorance. And so I love what you're doing is bringing that awareness to people because that education can set people free and help them empower them. Um,
There's a
what,
lot of,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was just going to say, there's a lot of fear behind disability because they don't know how to approach a person with a disability. And the simple answer to that is approach a person with a disability like you would anybody else. Have that conversation with them. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Questions lead to answers, answers to conversation, conversation to understanding, and understanding to less ignorance. Just not being afraid to have no filter, so to speak. Sometimes we often filter ourselves because we don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to hurt anybody. And that can be farther from the truth. Having the confidence within oneself just to be a part of the community, not for people with disabilities, but with people with disabilities.
Yeah. And um, as I'm thinking about what you're saying, this is really fascinating because you've done so many things. You've got like a TV show, you speak, you do all this stuff, right? And yet there's so many other people out there who don't even have a disability and they don't do a third or a quarter of what you're doing. I'd love for you to shine some insight on like where does that drive come from and what suggestion would you give to someone who might know that they have a bigger mission, but there's some fear or uncertainty there, like if it'll even work.
Absolutely. Well, one might think that it's about proving something to somebody else. But in my case, it's proving it to myself. Yes, I've born with a disability. It's been different in different stages of my life. I'm now 44. I think the drive and the passion of what I am and who I am and what I do is driven behind like a family support and giving back to the community that's given me the opportunity to be where I am. 2013, I was named to the alumni of distinction at the college that I work with, named to the Order of Hamilton here in Hamilton, Ontario. But those are not just validation points. They're drivers in the fact that, yeah, there's a lot more work to be done. And when people try to block certain accessibility points, you got to find a way to break through that, combat the ableism, the elitism, the stereotypes and the stigmas behind disability, because we have a voice, not necessarily just in the verbal sense, but a voice that needs to be heard and understood. And once those accessibility and accommodation points are in place, we all can thrive.
I love that. Well, thanks so much for sharing everything and about your story and the message that you're bringing. If you had one thing that you wanted to leave with the audience today, one thing that they could do or implement or like reach out to you if they want to spread the message and the awareness, what would that, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me through my website at www.anthonyfrazina.ca.
Could you repeat
Or
that one more time?
Sorry, yeah, it's www.anthony, ANTHONY, FRISINA.ca. Or Facebook is my big one at above and beyond.anthonyfrazina, or on Facebook at Above and Beyond Media. Again, the message is collaboration, the importance of allyship. What I do is not done by me alone. This is done by a community that we back each other up. In addition to, what we talked about, we just opened a not-for-profit called All Abilities All Stars, and bringing local just people with disabilities and community members without disabilities, and seeing the importance of what a collaboration looks like. Showing the possible, showing what inclusion is about. It's a recreational setting, but it really empowers people to see what disability looks like and how we can all work together to make that impossible perception possible.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you, and thanks for sharing. And yeah, if you guys want to learn more or just bring that awareness, then be sure and follow Anthony. And we really appreciate having you on and sharing, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who have different physical disabilities, but also there's some people who might have some mental disabilities and just feel like they're incapable or not good enough. And no matter what it is, we can bring awareness to that and really unite as a community to confront it and start spreading the good. So really appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Hey, what's up? If you want to get access to learn the full process of how to change at a cellular level, click the link in the description. I actually have created a way for you to get access to the Unstoppablepreneur School for free so that you can check it out on a trial so you can experience these changes for yourself. So if you want to learn more, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to go through some of the coolest processes on the planet and the fastest hacks, click the link in the description and we'll see you on the other side. Was it me? No, it was each and every one of you. So we all chose to do that. No one forced you. No one made you. You chose, which is freaking awesome.